What's going on, Haley?
Living the dream.
Love it. So I got a text the
What's
other
up?
day from a friend. He says to me, Adam, I've been eating well and exercising for a week. I haven't lost weight. I want to quit. What do you think I said to
Wow.
that?
Go ahead.
That's exactly right. I said, you know what? You're right. You should probably quit.
Yeah. I mean, a week? A week of effort? Nothing to show for it? Yeah, absolutely bail.
That's it, right? Over. Done.
Yeah, yeah. And it's definitely what we encourage, with our clients.
And it was
What do
funny
you
because
say?
when I went that way, a little reverse psychology, he was like, all right, seriously, what should I do? I'm like, it's been a week. Like, what do you expect? And he kind of opened up to some suggestions. And it's interesting though, because it's like the first moment, the first second we expect results and we don't get them, the first thing we want to do is turn down the effort dial when I think in reality we need to turn it up. But what's even more interesting to me is we don't do this in other areas of life, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't think we do. No. I mean, I guess I'm trying to think. I can't think of any area in life that we do that in. No.
It's just funny how
Right?
it's like the first moment or when things get challenging with our health and fitness pursuit, we just quit. But it's like I remember, we work with a ton of doctors, and I remember this one doctor, and it was like the same story. They were frustrated, whatever, and it was like, it's interesting. Like whenever things don't go the way you want them to, your first thought is I'm quitting. But it's like, did you do that in medical school? Did you do that in your residency? And she was like, no, I didn't. Um,
Right.
and that was a big aha moment for her because she never gave herself that out in medical school. Sure, I'm sure she thought of like, oh, this is really hard. This is really challenging and difficult. It would be fun to quit, but she didn't actually quit, right? And there's a huge difference between thinking something, of course, and actually doing it. And that was a big realization for her because like she just never allowed herself, of course, to quit. But she didn't even entertain that idea either.
Well, I mean, not for nothing, but she probably dropped like 120 grand on med school. So maybe that's the hook, Adam. Maybe we just, charge people right up front 120 grand. You're going to lose the weight. Right? Like, I mean, seriously, like think about it, right? There's a massive loss aversion, not to mention her whole family was probably like, "Oh, she's going to med school, she's going to be a doctor." All her friends, everybody knew, right? And I do think there is something there, right? Like if everybody knew you were working on getting your body in shape, getting healthy, and you had to drop a load of money on it, oh, you'd absolutely show up. On your worst day, you would still go,
Right.
right? So I think that's it. I think gyms and my bodysuiter, we got to start charging more money.
That is interesting. So it's a combination of loss aversion, definitely, and ego in that others are expecting this of you and you don't want to let them down.
Yeah, yeah. The other thought that comes to mind is like, do you do that in relationships? Like think about the first time you have an argument with like a significant other. You're like, I'm out. Peace. Good luck. It's
Right.
been fun. Like, no, you probably work through it. I mean, if they're worth hanging on to, right? Definitely in marriage. Like, you can't just walk out the door because you have a disagreement. And essentially, that's kind of what we're in, right? Is a relationship with our bodies, with ourselves, with our health. And like the first time it doesn't go your way, you're just going to turn around and walk out.
That's a
I
great
think
point.
most people would say,
That's a
right?
great point. And it's interesting though, also, I think when you have a disagreement or a misunderstanding or whatever it is with your significant other, usually when you talk through it and you hear the other person's perspective and you check in with yourself, it actually makes the relationship better afterward, right? You feel more connected, you understand where they're coming from, they understand where you're coming from, and you feel like you have like this new kind of way going forward. And
Right,
which makes
right.
it better, which is interesting because I've often said like a relationship doesn't start until like you have your first fight, right? And yet with ourselves or with our health, it's like the first fight we have, we want to bail.
I know. Yeah. Well, I think the other thing too is like you have to keep in mind it's a bit of an experiment. Like I think there's also this misconception that there are certain numbers and certain methods and certain, there is a very clear path to better health, right? Like, oh, just tell me what numbers to hit. But it's not that. It is a relationship and it is experimental, and you have to get to know yourself and get to know what works for you. So I think it could also be the approach issue. Like, people go into it with the wrong mindset of like, oh, I'll just be told what to do, or I'll just be handed this diet or this workout. And when it doesn't fit them, they get really frustrated.
Yeah. All this relationship talk is making me think of my friend. She's a relationship counselor. One of the first questions she asks the couple, is, are either of you considering divorce? And almost always when one of them is considering divorce, they wind up getting divorced. And almost always when they both say no, they're not considering divorce, they don't. Because it's interesting, like either we look for reasons to bail or we look for reasons to stick with something. And if you're giving yourself that out, if you're already considering divorce, then you're likely going to find more and more reasons to support that decision, right? And if you're looking for reasons to stick with it, then you're going to look for more and more reasons to stick with it, of course.
Right. Well, I mean, if divorce is a possible destination, then that path is going to show up as a possible path in your life, right? I mean, it's just like, say you get in your car and you're destined for San Diego, but you hear there's this place called Tucson. Well, I don't know, but that's also an option, right? Whereas, like, if divorce isn't an option, if not losing the weight isn't an option, then there's only one way, and that's forward to weight loss or better health. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I agree. I think maybe that experimentation, that necessity to practice can be challenging in this kind of uncertainty. But I think that gets in the way. But I also think it is important to feel hopeful as well, right? And I think if you're not feeling hopeful, then you're likely going to look for reasons to bail as well.
Well, okay, hopeful. So let's go back talking about your friend that texted you. Was he not feeling hopeful then, right? I mean, he was a weekend. He must have been feeling like, well, I don't have any hope this is going to work, so I'm out.
I think it was a combination of just impatience, right? And I often say, patience plus consistency is an unbeatable combination. And again, we're so patient with ourselves in other areas of life, but for some reason with our health, we're not. So I think it was a combination of lack of patience. I think he felt hopeful in his plan because I discovered that there's a lot more he can be doing. So it's almost like he wanted the pot of gold without walking to the end of the rainbow, right? Because I'm like, all right, talk to me. Like, what are you doing on a daily basis? What's going on? And there was a lot of opportunity for improvement, actually.
All right. So a second set of eyes, right? Which, I mean, kind of going back to the relationship talk, and perhaps your friend who's the therapist, right? Like a second set of eyes could be really helpful in that situation. Help you understand what other paths are available on your way to your destination.
Yeah. I also just think it's this mentality. Like there's just either you're locked in and nothing's going to get in the way. It's almost, I remember reading this, I don't know where it was, but it was this prison mentality. It's like, let's just say, you're stuck in prison for the rest of your life. There's two choices. Either you're going to just fight it every day and you're going to fight it every day, or you're going to all right, accept it. This is the rest of my life. I'm stuck in prison. And I might as well make the best of it. And it's I think in relationships, perhaps you go into it we're married for the rest of our lives. We're going to make the most of it. We're going to fight through the, trials and tribulations, the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows, whatever, and we're going to make it work, right? And I think if we have that mentality with our health, this is a journey. We're not getting off the journey. And there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be weeks where life is absolutely crazy. There's going to be weeks where it's rainy and we don't feel motivated, but we're still on the journey, right? We're not letting ourselves off of it. I think that mentality is first and foremost. I think that's paramount.
Yeah. Well, I know we've had clients who've specifically said when they first start with us, don't let me quit. Right?
Right.
And we've been able to use that in the times they've written us, okay, I'm ready. I want out. No, you don't. No, you don't. You told us you didn't. So there is no out. There's only forward. And I think you're exactly right. And they're just, maybe the issue is, with a lot of a lot of health problems or issues, there is a pill, or there's a treatment, or there's a surgery, or there's something, right? Something that addresses it pretty quickly. And I just don't think that's this version of things. I think this health issue, it doesn't work like that. And I think a lot of us want it to work like that, and it just doesn't. It just doesn't. So you're absolutely right. You have to have that mindset of, I'm going all the way, baby. I don't care how long it takes.
Right.
And what I have to fight through.
Right. One of my favorite, days of the year is Marathon Sunday in New York City. And, my favorite part of the marathon is not the beginning where you see the professional runners, etc. It's the end when it's like 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon and you see the people walking, they're limping. And those are the people that they're determined, no matter what, they're going to cross that line, no matter what. Like, to me, that's where, like, I'm an emotional basket case. Like, I'm looking at these people crying. Like, it's so inspiring and so emotional because you could just see, like, no matter what, they are going to cross that line. So I think that's one thing, like, I love. And to that point, like, I think all the beauty and, like, all the beauty in life, I think, or at least some of it comes from struggle, right? Like, anything where there's a struggle, when you get through that struggle, that's where the reward is. Like, that's where it feels amazing. One of my favorite parts about what we do is when a client reaches their goal, it's like, all right, what's next? What can I accomplish? Like, it's like when you conquer yourself, you feel like you can conquer the world. And I think without that struggle, you wouldn't feel that way. Like, you're fighting through that, you're pushing through that. Which leads me to my next point. Like, I think any worthwhile journey in life is going to have what I call FDR, right? Fear, discomfort, doubt, and resistance. And if there was none of that, if there was no fear, if there was no discomfort, doubt, or resistance, then it wouldn't be a worthwhile journey, right? Like, that means it would just be a simple breeze thing to do. And, like, again, there's no struggle and then there's no reward. There's no satisfaction.
So did your friend come to realize that's what he was facing already? I read a quote the other day. It was like, oh, when you start to live the life of your dreams, expect fear to show up, nod, and keep walking. Right? Like, yeah. Essentially, like, he got a taste of success and then fear showed up.
Right.
So did he
ultimately,
stick with it?
I don't think that fear ever goes away or those feelings go away. I think you're just ideally acknowledging it and dancing with it, so to speak. But it's never going to go away. I mean, you talk, to some of the most successful people in the world in terms of, professional athletes and speakers. Like, they all have nerves. They all have all this fear, but they acknowledge it. They dance with it in a way, but they don't let it paralyze them, and they keep going.
I think they use it, right? Like, that's the thing. It's not an indication to stop. It's an indication to lean in, right? And
yes.
You use it. You learn how to harness it.
Yes.
Right? I like to work with people and help them learn what I call time bending. And that's really like a moment where you stop. You don't do anything. And a lot of times, so many of us are just busy, busy, busy all the time. And if we stop, we start to have some feelings.
Oh, yeah.
One of them that can come up, a lot is fear or uncertainty. And even just practicing, like, my time bending for like 3 minutes. It's like, okay, you talk about surfing the urge. That's what this is, time bending. I call it like doing nothing 5s or nothing 3s, So
yeah, if you want to have a little therapy session, I highly recommend driving your car with no radio and just driving with nothing playing, or going for a walk with not listening to anything and just being alone with your thoughts. It is, it's fascinating. And you see there's a lot of discomfort that comes up. But yeah, I don't know. Hopefully this talk gave you guys something to think about. Thankfully, my friend is back on the path. We did have a good conversation after, and he felt motivated and he felt inspired and committed. And I think either we look for reasons to stick with something or we look for reasons to bail. And when you look for reasons to stick with something, especially when you're health and fitness, there's endless reasons. There's endless reasons. Anything you want to add or in closing, Haley?
No, embrace the relationship work. I think that really matters.
With yourself or with others? What do you mean?
Yeah. Listen, you do it in one place, and honestly, I think the place to start is with yourself, with your health. and that spreads out to others, you know? So just embrace that it's a relationship. It's not going to be, you know, an exact science. It's not a science. It's really art.
Yeah.
You know?
And for me, I think something I always work on is like when I'm feeling something, whether it's fear, discomfort, doubt, or resistance, I try to turn towards it. Like I lean into it because it's definitely something good that I'm avoiding, right? And, you know, I think the more we can embrace that, the more, the closer we'll get to where we want to be. You know, often our results are hiding in the activities and things we don't want to do.
Awesome.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys soon.
Take care. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you liked that video, check out the link for another great video right here.
And if you're having trouble staying consistent, if you feel like you know what to do but just can't seem to do it, I invite you to check out our coaching program. It's in the link below. We offer one-to-one accountability, coaching, support. I know you're going to love it, and let's go. Together we can make it happen.